I'm not sure which are all the parts you missed out because of what is it called, the internet connection or my Teams connection. I'm not very sure. Let me start from the scratch. See, what is that I wanted to do is I just wanted to have a two separate network within my organization. Like I have two different departments. For each and every department, I have couple of devices, and all of these devices needs to be connected, or they have to be connected to a separate set of infrastructure, because I don't want the traffic is flowing directly between your department 1 and department 2. One of the way I can achieve this one is through the help of what? Building a separate infrastructure for each and every department. Like I have a separate set of switches for one department, I'm going to be having a separate set of switches for a second department as well. Now, because of this, so people who are connected to switch number 1 will be part of the department 1, and people who are connected to switch number 2 will be part of department 2. But even if I have to extend, I could extend it by having another switch or one more switch. Like that I can extend it. Assume that you have members in different floors of the same building, so you would like to have different set of switches on each and every floor, so that the members of the same team could be in a position to connect and communicate with each other. This is what we wanted to achieve. So if I'm going to be having a separate set of switches for each and every department, it is highly possible that many of the ports are going to be left unused. See, each and every port is going to be costing you. If I have 24 ports on a switch and only a couple of ports are being used, what is the point in having those many ports? Because the switch, whatever you're buying, you're paying for the whole set of interfaces. You want to get a maximum out of it. How do you do that one? Instead of maintaining a separate physical infrastructure, but I wanted to have the same amount of the same effect, but I'm going to be keeping a single infrastructure. For example, I keep a single switch. I can slice this switch logically into more than one through the help of VLAN. I can mark this one logical slice for department 1 and the second logical slice for the department 2. How do we achieve this one? Through the help of VLAN. Of course, people may be asking, I would like to extend the connectivity or the members who are in the different floor altogether. Still, I can keep a single switch, slice that switch into two different logical components like 1 and 2, and then you can connect these switches back to back using a special type of connectivity called as a trunk link. We are very familiar with that. Am I right or not? So, sorry, still issue. Can you hear me? Hello? Hello? I'm not very sure much. Let me check it out. Is there is any problem with internet or not? No, I don't have. I have good amount of speed. Do you want me to reconnect once again? Because I don't see much of differences from my side. Okay. But you understood this logic, na? Slicing one switch into multiple logical switches. I already explained in the previous time also. Since the what is it called? Since there was an issue, I rebooted it. Again, I'm starting from the same place, means from the scratch only. So, uh, so the logical slicing is okay, right? Oh, okay. Right. So on layer 2 switches, this kind of a logical slicing could be possible through the help of VLANs. The same way, is there is any possibility that a router could be sliced logically into multiple? Immediately the question could be, why would you do that one? See, that is where I was giving you an example called as what a POP devices, a point of presence devices. Typically what happens is the POP devices provides connectivity to the customer network. Now, if I have to collect each and every customer uniquely, even though they are overlapping, they are having a overlapping IP segment, I could do that one by having a separate POP router for each and every customer. Option 1. Option 2. This router can also be logically sliced into multiple logical routers. So even though they are logical, but when customer sees that from their perspective, they are connected to their own dedicated routing instance. So this can be done through the help of something called as what? A VRF on the Cisco routers. We can do this one, correct? Same way, if you take an example like what I would like to have earlier days, if I have to have a server, I will be building a server for web server 1, for mail server 1, and then I might be having a different application server, right? So I'll be building a separate server for each and every application that I would like to host it. But if something goes wrong, or you would like to have some additional resources, that is all going to be purely dependent on the availability and budget. All those things are going to be part of it. Now, if I have multiple servers, how much rack space is required? Point number one. How much power utilization is going to be happening? Point number two. Point number three, how you are going to be managing the cables, right? As you have more number of servers, rack space increases, power consumption increases, cabling is also going to be, might be complicated. I'm not very sure whether you guys have seen. I don't know what to do. Can you hear me now? Hello? Can I'm not sure. It's not internet issue, ma. Might be some other issue. I'm getting average 30 Mbps of speed, ma. Can you hear me? I'm not sure. It is not related to internet. Probably. I understand. I understand. I could realize what you're trying to say, but I don't think it could be an internet issue. Probably a high utilization of the rooms. Maybe. I'm not very sure about it. You want me to reboot once again my DSL router? I'll do that one if you want. If all of you guys are hearing properly, then the problem could be on my end only. Sorry? That's what. Then the problem could be from my side only. If all of you are not able to hear, then the problem will be on my side, not on your side. Okay. I'll connect with my mobile. I just connected to my mobile network. Now I just connected to my mobile network. Can you hear me now? Okay, fine then. See, I'm just continuing the session from where I have been dropped. Let me see. See, I have in earlier days, if I have to have the servers, means application to be hosted, I used to have a dedicated server for each and every application. For example, a web server, a separate hardware, mail server as a separate hardware, applications I can have a separate hardware. I can do all these things. But the point in having multiple servers, just think about how much of rack space would be required, and how much of power consumption is going to be happening, and what is the kind of a cabling that we have to maintain. As you increase more number of as you increase more number of servers, the rack space, power consumption, and cabling complication, all of them are going to be there. How do we simplify this one? After the introduction of virtualizations, what we started doing, we bought a high resourced server, like in Cisco means it is UCS server. So basically what we try to do, we will try to reserve a portion of your physical hardware as a virtual machine, right? I can have multiple virtual machines running on a single hardware. Then the rack space requirement is not going to be as like those many physical servers are being mounted. How about the power consumption? How about the cabling? Power consumption, still I say that it is going to be utilizing more only, but still the cabling, how we are going to be managing the cabling, those things are going to be very limited, especially when it comes to rack space. right? So you will be having a minimum amount of rack space after the introduction of virtualization. One of the advantage when you're going for the virtualization like Hyper-V or VMware or Zscaler, any kind of a virtualization component, every virtual machine can have its own operating system, right? So you can have in one virtual machine Linux, and another virtual machine you can have CentOS, and another virtual machine you can have Windows. Anything you want, you can do that one, right? So this is the benefit of going for the virtualization. Now I'm just coming to a different scenario altogether. Assume that you are a hosting service provider. When I say hosting service provider, I will be having enough space and infrastructure wherein customers can come and host their servers or services with me. Like your cloud service provider, I'm just talking about a hosting service provider. Now basically what happens, so I have enough rack space, right? So customer A is coming and hosting a couple of servers with me. So this is the server space for customer A. Same way, I'll be getting a separate set of a space for a customer B. Then customer C, like this, multiple customers are going to be coming and hosting their servers with me. Maybe one server or two server, that could be anything. But regardless of number of servers, right, those are all being owned by the respective customer. They have the complete rights on deciding and approving who can access their servers. So basically what they will be asking you is, they will be expecting you to give a firewall for them. Okay, this is the firewall one for customer A, and this is going to be managed by the customer itself. So they might be asking me to manage, again that is going to be an additional charge, but if I have hosted a firewall and I can give the access to the customer is going to be taking care of writing the policies, whatever the set of configurations they want, they will be able to do this one. Same way for customer B, they might require a separate firewall. For customer C, a separate firewall. Again, because all the traffic needs to be flowing through this firewall, and if something goes wrong with the firewall, then we will be getting into trouble. So obviously we may also need to think about the redundancy. So there will be a pair of firewalls we will be placing. So when I say a pair of firewall, for each and every customer, a pair of firewall is going to be done, connected together, and they are going to be operating at the same time, or one is going to be monitoring the availability of the primary device. That is going to be discussed in your failover discussion or high availability section. We will have a discussion with respect to how this active, passive and active standby is going to be working. Am I audible or I'm talking alone? I'm not sure. Oh, okay. Then the problem might be on my internet connection only. Maybe. Right. So by having multiple firewalls, you cannot claim that I have 10 customers already, I cannot accommodate you one more. It's not going to be happening. See, as I'm getting more of customers, it's more business for me. So each and every customer might be expecting a separate firewall or a pair of firewalls, which is going to be used to protecting their own resources, the customer's resources. The customer might be having one server or 10 server or 100 server, doesn't matter. But they will expect a dedicated firewall to safeguard their infrastructure, their resources. Probably as a service provider, you might buy a dedicated firewall for each and every customer and you can host it. But again, the cost involved in procuring a dedicated firewall and the rack space required and the power consumption, again, you are going to be making it as a chargeable one, right? You will be generating a bill for that as well. A recurring bill is going to be generated. I'm hearing some sound. Is there any question? Okay. Right. So what I wanted to do is how we were able to virtualize the switches, routers and machines the same way. Is there any possibility that the firewalls could also be virtualized? Yes, I can do that one. Cisco calls this as context. Right? The example what I have given is one of the example, but you have multiple examples as well. See, think about your company. I'm not sure which company you're working for. Assuming that your company is going to be taking care of multiple projects and every project would require its own firewall or its own infrastructure. Instead of going for building a dedicated physical infrastructure for each and every project, you will be able to slice it. You will be able to virtualize it. Because of that, the cost involved, the recurring cost involved in maintaining all of these physical equipments can be drastically reduced if you go for virtualization. You understand what I'm saying? So this is the benefit of going for virtualizing every hardware, and that virtualization is also possible on Cisco ASA firewall. Do you understand what I'm saying? Is that clear? So that is where we are just getting into the multiple context feature of your Cisco ASA firewall. With the multiple context option, we will be able to virtualize a single firewall into multiple logical firewall. There's one point you just need to remember when it comes to this virtualization. This virtualization can also be possible with the help on interface levels also. You remember when we are doing a router on a stick, what we normally do, we will have an interface, let it be a Gig Ethernet 0/0, and it is connecting to a switch, right? And then we have multiple VLANs connected like this. Now this interface is what we are going to be using for transporting all the VLANs traffic towards the router. Now the router takes the responsibility of switching the traffic between the different networks. VLAN 1 will be in one IP segment, VLAN 2 will be in a different IP segment. Then this one physical interface can be logically sliced into multiple sub interfaces. The same logic you can also do it on your firewalls also. The sub interface is nothing but a logical instance of a physical interface. Am I right? Now, if the interface is gigabit Ethernet, what is the maximum speed or what is the maximum bandwidth you have it on that interface? You will be having 1000 Mbps of traffic that can flow at any single point of time. That's the speed, right? Now, by having multiple logical interfaces, now let's say this is Gig Ethernet 0/0. Now I'm just creating 0/0.1. This is a logical interface which is very bound or very related to the physical interface. If the physical interface goes down, then automatically the logical interface also goes down. But the point what I'm trying to make it here is, just because you are allowed to create multiple logical interfaces, right? What would be the maximum speed on each and every interface? Is that going to be the bandwidth for 0.1 is going to be 1 gig, 0.2 is going to be 1 gig, 0.3 is going to be 1 gig, 0.4 is going to be 1 gig, then you will get maximum of 4 Gbps of throughput, right? So even though you are allowed to virtualize any of the component, the maximum capability or the maximum ability of that particular hardware is not going to be extended. So put together all these 4 logical interfaces bandwidth should not be, or throughput should not be beyond 1000 Mbps. So that is the physical restriction of the interface. If you apply the same logic, right? If I apply the same logic, I have a switch, right? This switch has been logically sliced into 2 or 3 through the help of VLAN, and assume this switch is capable of handling 1 Gbps of backplane. I'm just for an example, I'm just saying, right? 1 Gbps of backplane. Regardless of how many logical slices you have done, the maximum capability should not go beyond the physical capability of the switch. Not each and every logical switch can have individual capacity of 1 Gbps or 2 Gbps, not like that. So consolidated throughput should not go beyond the physical throughput, physical device throughput. Do you understand what I'm saying? Let me give you one more example. Now I have a firewall, okay? So this firewall is capable of handling 100,000 connections. That's the maximum connections the firewall can handle. See, the firewalls are going to be having something called the number of concurrent connections. The capacity of the firewall that would vary from 5505 to 5585. You have variety of models. Each and every model is going to be allocated with some amount of resources. Based on the resources, the maximum capability of that device is also going to be decided. So I'm just taking an example that the firewall, what I have taken as an example, is capable of handling 100,000 concurrent connections. That's the maximum capacity. Now I have sliced this physical firewall into 2, one as context 1, the other one as context 2. Am I saying that by slicing this logical firewall, by slicing the physical firewall into logical, each and every logical instance can have 100,000 concurrent connection? Is that the one, what I'm saying is true? No. the consolidated, see, the maximum concurrent connection of the physical device is 100,000, right? So by slicing this one, you are not increasing the capacity of the physical hardware. So the maximum number of concurrent connections across all of the contacts should not go beyond 100,000 concurrent connection. You understand what I'm saying? Is that clear? So what we have to do is we just need to limit the resources for each and every contact so that the physical capacity is not going to be overruled or overridden. So I have 100,000 connections. If I have two firewalls, I can say that this is going to be 50,000 and this is going to be 50,000. You can say that. Or else if you have multiple contacts, multiple firewalls, contacts 3, 4, 5, 6, so you have a limitation with respect to the maximum number of contacts that you can create on each and every model. It's not that every model will allow you to create 100 contacts, right? So depending on the model, the number of contacts that you can create will also be varying. At the same time, you have to pay for each and every context. What I mean to say, the context is also a licensed feature. The license is not going to be for 1, 2 like that. It will be 5, 10, 20 like that it will come. So if I say 5 contacts, you have to pay for 5 contacts, whether you're using all 5 contacts or not, it doesn't matter. You have to procure 5 contacts at a time. So if you're using 3, the 2 will be reserved, and whenever you want, you can use it. Okay. Now this is what we need to understand with respect to resource distribution or resource allocation. So we will see that one when we are getting into the configuration part. The next thing what we need to understand is, now see, each and every firewall will have, see, if I have the example what I have taken is, if I have a switch, I create 2 logical instances out of it. Each and every logical instance, which we are calling it as a VLAN, will have its own forwarding table, right? So each and every logical component will act as a physical switch, right? Will act as an individual switches. So the forwarding table is going to be populated for each and every switch. Forwarding table is going to be populated for the second switch also. But if I would like to do some set of configuration for VLAN 10, that is going to be responsibility, that is going to be understandable and applied only for VLAN 10, and whatever the configuration is required for VLAN number 20, and I can do that separately. The same logic applies with your context also. So every firewall is going to be independent of the other, but all dependent on the physical hardware. Okay. Now the configurations are required for each and every firewall. Now where do you save that one? So I have a separate set of configuration for each and every firewall. Keep that in mind. One thing you need to remember. The second thing what I'm saying is, okay, as a hardware firewall, okay, this is my hardware. Okay, now this is where I'm just creating context 1 and a context 2, then context 3. Like this I can have multiple contexts. My point is, with respect to the physical component, a physical firewall, creating context itself is a configuration. Am I right? What I'm trying to say is, the firewall by itself needs to have the configurations with which it knows that these are all the contexts which has been created, and each and every context is going to be doing these activities. For example, context 1 is created. Where do you create it? That itself is a configuration. Am I right or not? See, context would require its own configuration. That is a different story. But my point is, you have to create this context. That itself is a configuration where it will be stored. Do you understand what I'm saying? Is that clear? What I'm trying to explain here? No, that is going to... okay. Now, as a firewall, you are creating multiple contacts. There will be a space called as a system space. The system space will be holding the configuration of the firewall, which is capable of slicing, which is capable of running as multiple logical firewalls within. So what I'm trying to say, the configurations for each and every context will be separate. Configurations with respect to each and every context will be separate. What I mean to say, there is something called a system space which holds the physical device configuration which is related to the context. Okay, this is the context, this is the context, this is another context. That configurations are going to be stored in space Whereas each and every firewall will have its own configuration with which the traffic processing is going to be happening, right? So that is context configuration. The other one is context related configuration. Context related configurations are going to be stored in space, system space, whereas context configuration is going to be very relevant to the context which is going to be processing the traffic. Two things we are clear. Am I right? Okay, so again, I'll give you another example. The context itself is the configuration of system space. Who will be responsible for allocating the interfaces? Because you're creating the context, but that require the interfaces for filtering the traffic. Am I right? So we have seen the basic requirements for a security device. So one of the basic requirement is what? Layer 2, layer 3 forwarding. So that means at a minimum you should have two interface, and these interfaces needs to be available for these firewalls or the logical instances. Am I right? So when you are working with multiple context mode, there is something called as multiple context mode. I'll explain you. So when you are working in multiple context mode, the interfaces are going to be part of what is that called? The system space. Everything, each and every hardware component is going to be part of the system space. Now basically, if you wanted to use any of the interface, these interfaces needs to be associated to the respective context, right? So what is that happening? The configurations of, what is that called? Configurations within the context is different. Configurations related to context is different. The context configurations and the interface allocations are going to be done from the system space. You understand what I'm saying? Is that clear? Which configuration you are talking about? That is different. See, the firewall can operate in two different modes, single context mode or multiple context mode. If the firewall is operating in single context mode, you don't need to talk about system space, context configuration, interface allocation, resource allocation. You don't need to do that one, because all of them are part of a single firewall. The hardware is acting as a single firewall, right? But the moment you convert the firewall into multiple context mode, then only the system space comes into picture. Then only the separate configuration for context and configuration for the system space will be existing. Okay. Now there is one more thing. Each and every logical context, right? So each and every logical firewall might be requiring some sort of communication back to the management services, like your syslog, like your SNMP. Those communication needs to happen, right? How this could be happening is through the help of a special context called as admin context. You understand what I'm saying? Is that? See, for any reason, if the communication has to be required, what I mean to say, if the communication is required with the management services, the context 1 is requiring to communicate with the syslog server or SNMP server, how the communication will be working? Right? Even though you have the interfaces, but again, the system space might also require the log communication or the management server communication. How the communication can happen? So that communication can happen only through the help of admin context interfaces. System space doesn't have any communication to the external world, even though the interfaces are available within. You understand what I'm saying? So if the communication has to happen for the if the communication has to happen to the external management services, the system space will use the admin context for that. You understand? Because the system space is not having any traffic passing interfaces, even though it holds the interfaces, right? The interfaces are not going to be used at all. Is that clear? No. That is one of the use. I'll come to you with respect to the question what you're asking. what I'm explaining here is for any log related information or any communication needs to be initiated by the system space, which require the interfaces, but the system space doesn't have any configuration with respect to the interfaces like IP address configurations. You cannot do it. Then how the communication to the external world could happen? That can happen only through the interfaces which are available on admin context. Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay. So system level logs are going to be sent through the logging servers through the help of admin context. Same way, each and every context will be having its own configuration, right? So if the configuration needs to be fetched, this context would require admin context space. Okay, one more point. An administrator would require for managing each and every context because they are all going to be considered as a separate firewall, correct or not? So every context is going to be considered as a firewall, and this firewall I'm reserving for customer A, this is for customer B, and this is for customer C. And this is an admin context. This is going to be owned by the service provider who is providing this service. Now my point is, if customer A wanted to write some policies, then he has to log into his own firewall and then he'll be in a position to do the configurations. Same way, you need to have a separate administrator for context B, a separate administrator for context C. Am I right or not? Can I do that one? Can I create a different set of administrator for each and every context? Yes, you can do that one. This is not a problem at all. Members, the administrator who is logging into the respective context will have access to only that particular context. He will not be able to see, or there won't be any visibility of other contexts for the administrator who logged into context 1. Same way, an administrator who have logged in to the context number 2, he will have visibility only to his context. The rest of the contexts are not visible for the administrator who logged into context B. Is that clear? But no, I'm just talking about only the context administrator. Now I'm going to be talking about the admin context. See, the explanation whatever I have given is only for the administrator related to the general context. Is there any questions on that? Okay. Now I'm coming to the admin context. See, the admin context administrators will have access to the system space, to the admin context as well as to the other context. You're getting my point? Okay. See, the administrators of a context will have access only to the context they are associated to. Whereas the administrators of admin context will have access to the other context as well as to the system space. Same way, the administrators of system space, who will be that? If I'm taking a console access, okay? Let's assume like that. If I'm taking the console access, I'll be having access to the system space directly, from where I can go to the admin context, the other context also. That's also possible. System space remote management is not possible. Like you don't have any interface associated to system space. You remember that? That's what I was saying. Is there any clarification required here? See. Yes, correct. See, I have a system space and this is context 1 and this is context 2. This is my admin context. And this is my system. The system space does not have any interfaces for traffic passing. Right? So in that case, how do you gain management access or how do you gain access to the system space via remote management protocols? If you log into the admin context, from here if you wanted to get into the system space or if you wanted to get into the other context, yes, you can do that. Clear? Is this clear? Okay. Yes. The interfaces are under the control of system space, but what you can do is you can allocate the interfaces to the context, but you will not be able to configure those interfaces from system space. Okay. Now, see, if how do I log into the system space directly? Probably if you are taking the console access, you are gaining access to the system space directly. If I have system space access, I can have access to the admin context as well as the other context as well. Is this clear? Okay. So now we understood the concept of what is it called multiple contexts and how they are going to be working with respect to the operations. Now let me try to explain you something like what. I'll tell you one thing. Now, if I have the questions, means I'm just taking the question from the point, and now we had the discussion. How many contexts can be created? It purely depends on the model. I can also create 100 contexts. Okay. Now, there is one question now. If I have 100 contexts, okay, where is my mouse? Oh my God. Okay. So I have 100 contexts, but I have a firewall, right? With a 100 context license. Now, every firewall, we should have a minimum of 2 interfaces, correct? Minimum of 2 interfaces. One interface will provide connectivity to the internal network, and one interface will be providing connectivity to the external network. As a hosting service provider, customers have hosted their servers with me, right? And they should also have access to the public network through which their services are accessible to the people who they are authorized. Is that clear? Same way, I need to have customer B a separate interface, customer B. I need to have multiple interfaces. If I have 100 contexts and every context would require 2 interfaces, so I need to have 200 interfaces. Do you think a firewall could have 200 interfaces? Have you ever seen any firewall with then what do you do? So now there is something called as what? The interfaces. Every context can have a dedicated interface as an option. This is one option, okay? The firewall can have a dedicated interface. The firewall can have a sub interface. The firewall can also have a shared interface. You have any questions with respect to dedicated interface? So I have a gig Ethernet 0/0. I'm reserving this to context 1. No problem. So any traffic comes on this interface, the firewall can differentiate that it is coming from or coming for context 1, but not for context 2. Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay, wait a minute. I'm just drawing this one once again. Now I have a firewall. I have gig Ethernet 0/0, gig Ethernet 0/1, and gig Ethernet 0/2. So this is associated to context 1, and this is associated to context 2, and this is associated to context 3. So any traffic received on gig Ethernet 0/0, now the firewall knows that it is meant for context 1. Am I right? Same way, gig Ethernet 0/1, the firewall can classify the traffic that it is meant for context 2. Gig Ethernet 0/2, if I receive any traffic, it is for context 3. That is very clear. Same way, if I'm going to be having a sub interface, we know how to create the sub interfaces. The VLAN interfaces we will create, right? The interface gig Ethernet 0/3.1, 3.2, 3.3, like that we'll be creating. Even then, we have the classification. The physical interface is gig Ethernet 0/3, but this is 0/3.1. I can have 0/3.2. I can have 0/3.3. Like that, I can create it. And each and every sub interface can also be associated with VLAN. Now I know that if the traffic is coming on this particular interface, it is meant for context 1, it is meant for context 2. Like that, the differentiation could be possible. So by creating sub interfaces, you can classify the traffic is meant for which of the network, right? Now, when it comes to external, do you think you will be providing a separate internet connection for each and every context? Not necessarily. If I do that, again, redundant service provider, 100 into 2, I need to have 200 more interfaces just for the external connectivity, because a service provider redundancy is also there. In this case, what I'm trying to do is, I'm just keeping one of the interface. Let me call this as Gig Ethernet 0/4, and this interface will have its presence. Let's say this is my let's say this is context 1, context 2, and context 3. Now, this particular interface is going to be logically spliced, like what means, I'm not going to be slicing as what a sub interface. I'm saying that Gig Ethernet 0/4 is there in context 1, is there in context 2, is also there in context 3. What I'm saying, a single interface has its presence in more than one context, and then that interface is called as a shared interface. Do you understand what I'm saying? Is that clear? Now there is a question. If I have a dedicated interface, there is no problem at all. How? Because I know that if any traffic coming on received on Gig Ethernet 0/0, it is meant for context 1. If it is received on Gig Ethernet 0/1, it is meant for context 2. If it is received on Gig Ethernet 0/2, it is for context 3. Well and good. But on the other side, see, I have a router which is connected to internet. It is sending the traffic. Now the router needs to know to which of the contexts it has to be sent to. You understand? Is that context 1, context 2, or context 3? Because we have a single interface which is shared across multiple contexts. How do you know that this traffic is meant for so and so? So if I have a dedicated interface, then there is no problem. If I don't have a dedicated interface, one thing I have to do is, see, for context 1, I will have an internal server like 172.16.1.10. I might have mapped this 172.16.1.10 to a different IP address, right? So external world, when they are sending the traffic to this 1.1.1.1, the firewall knows that 1.1.1.1 got associated with context 1. Then the traffic will be received on context 1. According to the policies in context 1, the traffic can be permitted. You understand what I'm saying? Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay, so using the NAT, you will be able to differentiate the received packet is meant for which of the context. That is one. If you have a dedicated unique interface, then there is no problem at all. If you don't have a dedicated interface, then one of the way that the traffic can be classified, that this traffic is meant for context A, context B, or context C, is through the help of NAT. If you have unique interface, that is also possible. If you don't have a unique interface, and that is going to be different. But again, one thing comes into mind. Though I have a single physical interface and I'm sharing it with multiple contexts, what will be the IP address for this interface in each and every context? Will it be the same? For example, this, let me say 192.168.1.2. This is also .2. Do I have to configure separately? Yes, I have to configure the IP addresses separately, but those IP addresses should also be unique and they must be in the same IP segment. Do you understand? Might be little confusing. So anyway, I'm recording it. You can review it once again so that you will get a better understanding on the same thing. See, when an interface is considered as a shared interface, this interface is having its presence across more than one context. Is that clear? Okay, right. Now the thing is, every interface to be used within a firewall, it has to be configured with a name, it has to be configured with an IP address and a security level. You remember that? A regular firewall configuration. So name if configuration, security level configuration, and the IP address configuration. That has to be separately configured on each and every context for the same interface, even though it is shared. Point number one. The next thing is, the IP address cannot be identical across all of the context. The interface, when it is getting shared, it requires an IP address, and that IP address cannot be the same across all of the contexts. It has to be different. And though it has to be different, all of those IP addresses must be in the same IP segment. What I mean to say, Gig Ethernet 0/4 in context 1 is in 192.168.1 segment, whereas the Gig Ethernet 0/4 in context 2, can I have a different IP address like 10.100.10.1? No, it's not possible. So, when an interface is shared across multiple contexts, they have to be configured with an IP address separately within each and every context. And that IP address must be a unique IP address, but the IP addresses must be part of the same IP segment. Does it make sense? Okay. Yeah, true. See, this is the router we have, right? We will have that. Every context internal network interface is going to be different. It might be dedicated, again, it may be sub interfaces. Their network will be different. 172.16.1.0. Here it will be 172.16.2.0. 172.16.3.0. I'll have it. Now, on this router, I will have a route to reach 172.16.1.10. I will have the next hop address of the IP address, right, associated to the context 1 of the same shared interface. Right? Now, there is one problem. See, when I have a physical interface shared across multiple contexts, though you can configure a different IP address, what would be the status of MAC address? The physical interface can have a single MAC address only, right? Can I configure multiple MAC addresses? No, it's not going to be happening. Then at layer 2 level, how the firewall could understand the received packet is for context A, B or C? There is no differentiation, right? So to overcome this problem, what people have done, what the developer have done is, when you are working with the ASA firewall on a multiple context mode and it is understood that the interface is being shared, when the moment it has been shared, for each and every context, the same interface will have a unique MAC address as well. Do you understand? So, for each shared interface within each and every context, you will have a separate IP and a unique MAC address. We will see these things. Till this point is clearer? Okay. Now, let me get into the appliance and I will show you a small demo with respect to this. Okay. Now, if this itself is confusing, there is a concept within Checkpoint called as VSX. No, it's not that difficult, ma. Probably while hearing for the first time, it might be looking difficult, but actually speaking, it is so simple. No, don't worry. I'm here. Anytime you want to clarify anything, you can ask me. Okay, now I'm just going to be taking an example. What is that? I would like to create two contexts on this. Okay, so context 1, I call it as Pepsi. Context 2, I would like to call it as Coke. I also need a context called as admin. And this is my system space. So I'm going to be having a dedicated interface for Pepsi, a dedicated interface for Coke, and a dedicated interface for admin. And I'm going to be having a shared interface for the external world. Okay, this is what I'm planning to do. Now the internal interfaces are going to be having, like this interface will have, I think the color is not that visible. Well, this guy will have an IP address of 10.1.1.1/24, and this guy will have an IP address of 10.1.2.1/24, and this guy will have an IP address of 10.1.3.1/24. Now, this interface, right, will have, let's say, 192.168.1.2. The same, this guy will have an IP address of 192.168.1.3, and admin context will also be having that interface associated with, and this guy will have an IP address of 192.168.1.4. The external part, we have a router which will be having an IP address of 192.168.1.1. You understand what I'm saying? Is this? Yes, yes. Correct, correct. I'm not using a sub interface in my example at all. If you want, you can do that one also, but I'm not going to be doing that. I'm not going to be doing that. In my demonstration, I'm not going to be doing it. Is that clear? Okay. Now, let's go to our setup. Where is my setup? I don't have my setup. Oh, did I restart it? I'm not sure. Yes, I think after oh, now I am forced to get connected to my physical wireless network to get connected with my server. Okay. Am I audible now? Am I audible? I'm using my internal server. That's why. If I'm using the same setups what you guys are using, then I no need to reconnect with this one. Okay. Now let me connect to 192.168.1.6. That is the IP address of my Eve, admin and Eve. Okay. Now let me log in. Hope it is visible. Okay. Okay, now let's do a small change over here. I'm stopping this. I'm going to be adding another router here. Okay. Now see, I'm just changing this name to, this is going to be my Pepsi, so that you will be able to differentiate it. Okay, so that's why I'm just renaming it. This is my Coke, and this guy belongs to my admin department. Now, according to the topology, I have 3 routers externally and 1 router on the external, 3 routers internally and 1 router is on the external side. Okay. Now, let me start all of these routers as well as a firewall as well. Yes, yes, correct. Okay, I'll do that also so that you will be. Anyway, change it. Anyway, while you're doing that one, that should not be confusing, right? See, certain topics you will be working day to day, but these things you may not be working day to day. That's why I'm just very specific about giving certain details. See, we actually, as I said earlier, I belong to system integration team. I would have done a lot of things with respect to this context on ASA, a lot of VSys configurations starting from NetScreen era, then VDOMs in FortiGate, VSX in Checkpoint, right? Then I have done a lot of implementations on this. Of course, after doing a couple of implementations only, you will get more of clarity on how this works. Okay, now I'm just going to the Pepsi. Pepsi is supposed to be having an IP address of what? Let's see. No IP address configured here. Pepsi will have an internal IP address of 10.1.1.1. Okay, good. Which interface is connected? Fast Ethernet 0/0. Okay, interface fast Ethernet 0/0. I will configure the IP address as 10.1.1.10 255.255.255.0. Then no shutdown. IP route 0.0.0.0 0.0.0.0 2. So this is my firewall's IP. Okay. Now I will configure my Coke. Oops, I think I did a wrong interface configuration. So Pepsi is supposed to be fast Ethernet 0/1, not 0/0. Right, and also I should have the route associated to default route pointing to 10.1.1.1. Now I'm configuring Coke. Host name as Cook, then interface fast Ethernet 0/0, address is 10.1.2.10. Okay, now admin 10.1.3. Okay, on routers I'm doing it. I'm just adding a default route. Consider these routers as endpoints. Okay. Okay, so I'm done with the routers configuration, means on the internal side. External side I just need to configure along with the loopback interface as well. Let me go to my router. I'm not adding any routes for the internal network. Okay, I'm simply adding so there is no routes added on the ISP side. Okay, I'm yet to complete that one. Okay, we will do that one. Now I'm just getting into the firewall. I would have done clear configure all. While you're working with virtual images, sometimes this could crash. Should not be taking this much time. Because of yes, please. Yeah, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? Yes, somebody called me. I think it was Mahesh. Okay, interactive mode prompt. Okay, there is no configurations. Okay, Mahesh, can you hear me now? Mahesh, you there? Okay, 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 right. Fine. See, basically what happens here, if I go and check it out, see that one. Okay, that is something called. I'm just specifically deleting a file. I'll explain you what I'm doing later. Okay, now what are all the files that you're seeing here? So the same set of files as that we have seen yesterday. Nothing new is there. Now what I'm trying to do is I'm just creating a host name for my firewall ASA. That's the name I have given to you. Right, and also I'm just trying to configure interface Ethernet 0, then name if inside, and simply I'm just configuring an IP address 192.168.1.1. okay, then no shutdown. Then I'm just trying to save this configuration. Then this is going to be saved as a startup configuration. Okay, now what I'm trying to do now, so there are certain configurations I have done before I convert the device, or I'm just going to be working with a multiple context. I'm just checking what is the mode the firewall in, point number one. Point number two, whether this firewall allows me to create the context or not. First of all, I'm just checking it out whether the device is allowing me to create the context or not. Can you see how many contexts I can create on this box? 20 contexts can be created. That means the device allows me to create the context. Now, but what mode the firewall is in? Show mode is the command. There are two things that you have to be understanding. There is a command called the show firewall. There is a command called the show mode. Don't confuse yourself with this, because this one we yet to see. Okay, but this one we are seeing now. See, when I say show mode, it is clearly saying that the security context mode is a single mode. That means when I'm in single mode, even though I have the license and capability to create multiple contexts, the system will not allow you to create. Because I'm operating in a single context mode, only one context is allowed in this. Though I have a license, though I have the capability, right? So, but still I will not be able to create the context. Now to do this one, what I have to do is mode multiple is the keyword that you will be giving it. The moment I say mode multiple, I'm instructing the firewall that I'm going to be creating the context within this device. That's the meaning of it. When I say this one, see what is that happening. The moment I say this command will change the behavior of the device, yes, I know that. This command will initiate a reboot, yes. Proceed with the change mode, yes, I would like to go for it. At the same time, it is also doing what? Convert the system configuration, yes. What is basically happening here is, 1 minute, see, the admin context configuration will be written into flash, the new running configuration file will be written into the flash, but it is also converting the configurations as old running configuration. See, when you are converting the ASA device from single user mode or single context mode to multi-context mode, the configurations whatever you have done in single context mode will be saved as old running configuration, so that if you are planning to return back from multiple to single, your configurations are there, you can load that configuration, then you no need to worry about anything. Okay. Am I audible? Okay. Okay. Sorry? Uh, the name of the configuration file itself will be old underscore running.cfg. If you want to recover you want to restore the device from that file, you can do that. Copy old underscore running to running. That's it. Okay. Now check it out. When I say dir, you can see that old underscore running configuration, and you're also seeing that admin.cfg. Okay. Now check it out. Check it out. Show interface IP brief. What is that? There is no IP addresses configured. Can you see that? Okay. Now the point is, check it out the mode. Now the system is in multiple mode. I am trying to configure an IP address for the interface in multi-context mode. Interface Ethernet 0, then name if outside or whatever it is. See here what it is saying. The command itself is not applicable for me. See here what all the set of commands I have. I don't have the IP address command at all. So you can understand that when you are trying to configure an IP address directly after you log into the system, that you are in multiple context mode. So then how do I configure? First of all, I have to start creating the context. Before I do anything, let me check it out if there is any context available or not. Am I audible now? Okay. See, what I'm trying to mean it as, I'm trying to configure an IP address directly on the interface after changing the mode to multiple. I couldn't, because when you are logging in, you are logging into the system space after you configure. You remember, after change the mode from single mode to multiple mode, now I'm logging into through the console, which means what? I'm logging into the system space. While I'm in system space, none of the interfaces can be configured. You remember, only thing I can do is I can allocate these interfaces to the context. Am I audible? Okay, see here, when I see this one, okay, did I create a context called as admin context? I didn't. But when you're changing the device from single context mode to multiple context mode, the system knows that you need to have a minimum of one context as admin context. So the name of the context which has been created by default by the Cisco systems is admin, and that is that has been given a role of what? That star says what? Admin context. Can I change any context as an admin context? Yes, you can. Okay. Now, first of all, what are all the thing you have to do is, can you see that in admin context, there is one interface associated to. Okay. Can you see that one? Ethernet 0 is associated to admin context. Now, what and all I have to do is, I just wanted to create the context first according to my requirement, but I no need to create the context called as admin because it is there by default. But the interface associated to that is Ethernet 0, but according to us, the topology, it is supposed to be Ethernet 3. Can you see that? Ethernet 0 is connected to Pepsi, Ethernet 1 is connected to Coke, Ethernet 2 is connected to ISP, and Ethernet 3 is what connected to admin context. Now let's see how we are going to be doing those things. I'm sorry. Here it is. Now first of all, what I have to do is context. I'm just going to be creating the first context now called as Pepsi. That's the context I'm creating. Can you see that? Creating the context is done. Same way, now I'm in, after creating, I got into the context mode called as CTX. Now, then I'm creating a context called as Coke. So two contexts have been created. Check it out, show context. See that there is a context called as admin that has been created by default, and there is a context Pepsi. There is also a context called as Coke. Now, the interfaces needs to be bound to the respective context. Ethernet 0 supposed to be associated to Pepsi, Ethernet 1 supposed to be associated to Coke, Ethernet 3 supposed to be associated to admin. Let's do that one. First of all, how do I do it? Is context admin no allocate interface Ethernet 0. That means what? No allocate interface net 0. I removed it. That means allocation is done. Check it out. Check it out. There is no interface associated to admin context now. So according to the topology what we are working with, Ethernet 0 supposed to be part of context Pepsi. This is where the Ethernet 0 is supposed to be associated to. Allocate interface Ethernet 0, and also you have an option of giving a separate name for that. The same interface within that context may have a different identification also, ETH0. That's I'm giving it as ETH0. Along with that, I would like to configure Ethernet 2 as my external interface. You remember that? See, Ethernet 2 is associated to Pepsi, Coke, as well as admin. That's what the topology we were working with. Am I right? So, I got into Pepsi context, associated Ethernet 0 and associated Ethernet 2. Now, I'm getting into context Coke, Ethernet 1, I guess. Coke supposed to be having Ethernet 1. Yes. Same way, I wanted to bind Ethernet 2 as well. See what happened? Pepsi also have Ethernet 2. Coke also has Ethernet 2. Now, the third one what I have to do is context admin allocate interface Ethernet 3. Same way, allocate interface Ethernet 2. Now, if I see that context, I can see each and every context has two interfaces. Ethernet 2 is there in each and every context. Am I right? Is this clear now? Is this clear? Okay. Now, every context has their own dedicated interfaces, and every context also has the same interface. Because this Ethernet 2 has been allocated to more than one context, and this interface is considered as a shared interface. The next thing what we have to do is, I told you, right, every configuration we do within Pepsi and every configuration we do within Coke needs to be saved as a separate configuration file. And where do you want to save those configuration file? Because admin context, they have given a name by default. Now what I have to do is, now I'm just getting into context Pepsi. Then I have to say config-url. That means your configurations are going to be stored in so and so location, disk 0 / let's say pepsi.cfg. There are two meanings in this. When I say config URL disk 0 / pepsi cfg, I'm saying that if you have this configuration file already in your flash system, load this configuration here. At the same time, further changes will also be updated to the same configuration file. You understand? See, could not fetch the URL. That means there is no configuration file with the name of pepsi.cfg. If there is a file with the name of pepsi.cfg, and that configuration will be loaded into this context, as well as any configuration changes further we do will be updated to the same configuration file. Do you understand what I'm saying? Context Coke, then the config URL is going to be coke.cfg. Okay, now check it out, show context. This is where you can see. So disk 0 admin.cfg is the configuration URL for admin context. Pepsi.cfg is the configuration location for Pepsi. Coke.cfg is the file where the context Coke related configurations are going to be stored. Till this point is clear? Till this point is clear? Okay. Okay. Now this is where the resource classes means the restriction of connections, restriction of management connection, how many telnet sessions you can be establishing. Those things will come into picture. While I'm sharing the worksheet, you will be able to understand those things. I'm not spending time on that. Now, I just need to configure the IP addresses, right? Without configuring the IP addresses, without enabling that interfaces, we will not be able to establish any sort of communication. So first of all, I'm just getting into context, Pepsi. I just need to configure the interface with IP address. Interface, right? What is that interface I have? Ethernet 0. And then trying to see, do I have an IP address or name? If no, there is no command at all. We have seen this one while we logged in with the multiple context mode. Then how do I configure the IP addresses? So that is where, see here, that is where there is a different command altogether. Change to context called as Pepsi. When I do this one, see the differences. When I say context so and so, I got into, see this. When I say context, the mode is what? Config dash ctx. Now when I say change to Pepsi, I say dash Pepsi. So I'm in Pepsi's context. Now can I configure the IP addresses? Yes, I can. But check it out, the interfaces what I have. ETH0 and ETH2. Now I'm just saying ETH0. This is the name of the interface. I mean, this is the identification of the interface within the context. Then I have to give name if inside. You can see the security level is taken. Now IP address is going to be 10.1.1.1, 255.255.255.0. Of course, no shutdown is given. Okay. Same way, interface Ethernet 2. That means this is going to be my external interface. Name if outside, right? IP address is going to be 192.168.1.2. That's what the topology says. Am I right? So 192.168.1.2. Not giving the subnet mask because I'm using the default subnet mask as well. No shutdown. So I just enabled it. Now I have to move back to Coke. So I'm just change to context Coke. Okay. Now I'm in Coke context. Can you see the difference here? Earlier I was in Pepsi. Now I'm in Coke. Now I just get into interface ETH. I think what is the Ethernet 1, right? Ethernet 1. For Coke it is Ethernet 1. Yeah, Ethernet 1. Name if inside. IP address is 10.1.2.1, 255.255.255.0, then no shutdown. Then interface Ethernet 2, name if outside, IP address is 192.168.1.3, correct? That's what the topology says. Yes, for the Coke it is 3. Then I'm also, no shutdown is given. Okay, then change to context admin, interface Ethernet 3, name if inside, IP address is 10.1.3.1, 255.255.255.0, no shutdown, interface Ethernet 0, sorry, Ethernet 2, right, Ethernet 2, name of outside, IP address is 192.168.4. No shutdown. Okay, now let's check the connectivity, direct connectivity between each and every devices. Let's see. I'm getting into the router 1, okay, Pepsi router 1. Trying to ping 10.1.1.1. Got the reply? Ethernet 2. Means the router 2. Ping 10.1.2.1. I'm not getting the reply. Why? What could be the problem? Can you guess and tell me? I'm able to reach 10.1.1.1, but I'm not able to ping 10.1.2.1 from the respective router. But even if I try to ping from here 10.1.2.1, I won't be able to receive the reply. That's a different story. But at least the directly connected device, I should get the reply, right? Now I will show you what is that. ASA show interface IP brief. See, the status of the interface is down. Why the status of the interfaces are down? Because change to system. Because see, show interface IP brief, you would have noticed all the interfaces were administratively down. Even though I have given the no shutdown command within the context, it is not having any effect on it. Let me say interface Ethernet 1, no shutdown, 2, no shutdown. I'll tell you why that. Okay. Now in this case, what happened? This Ethernet 2 interface has been shared across multiple contexts, correct? Ethernet 2. Now context Pepsi will also be having access to it. Context Coke will also be having access to Ethernet 2. Context admin will also be having access to Ethernet 2. For some reason, see the Cokes and Pepsi and Coke, they are competitors, right? So for some reason, if anyone, Pepsi, wanted to disrupt the services, okay? Wanted to disrupt the services. Now what they can do, Coke can log in and they can simply shut down the Ethernet 2 interface. Because of that, people whomever is using that interface wouldn't be in a position to access it. But you may be claiming that Pepsi can go and enable it. Yes, they can do it. But anyway, disruption is a disruption. Or else Pepsi can also log in and disable this interface. So the physical characteristics of the interface are under the scope of system space, not under the scope of context. Does that make sense? Does it make sense for you guys? Change to context called as Pepsi. Now show interface IP brief. You can see that. See, now the status is up. Now if I go to this router and then try to ping, we should be in a position to ping. Same way R3. Am I audible? You guys are listening to me? Okay. Now I'm also going to my ISP router, then checking the ARP table. So I have 1.1, which is my IP address. This is my MAC address. I'm trying to ping 192.168.1.2. I'm also trying to ping 3. I'm also trying to ping 4. Check the ARP table. See that all of them are 5000.001. 001, 002, 5000, 001, 002. It's what it's giving the details, right? Now let's come here. See, starting from a specific version, the MAC address automatic generation is happening. Now here in Pepsi, show interface ETH0, sorry, ETH2. What is the MAC address here? 5000, 0001, 0002. Now change to context called as Coke. Then give the same command, check it out, what is the status of that. They are also having the same MAC address. Can you see that? This leads to some other problem. Am I right? Because every interface, the same interface is being shared across multiple contexts. They have to have a unique MAC address. You have an option of doing that one. Change to system, then go there, MAC address. This is the keyword. Converted to MAC address with auto prefix. After doing this, I'm just getting into change to context. Pepsi, then show interface ETH2. MAC address is different now. Same way, change to Coke. Sorry, Coke, and then give the command. MAC address is different now. Can you see that? See, starting from a specific version, see, there are a lot of enhancements were going on. For example, the multiple context concept got introduced in 7.1 or 7.2. Okay. So, by that time, there were certain limitations with the features, like what you will not be able to terminate the VPN. There were certain restrictions, right? Now, in current 9.6, you can also go for the AnyConnect VPN, SSL VPNs are also possible. The extension is going on. When the feature got introduced, certain restrictions were there. As they are coming up with the newer versions, certain enhancements were also going on. So, in a newer version, you are not dependent on giving this command MAC address auto, because that is automatically generating. You're getting my point, right? If it is not generating, only then you have to give the command MAC address auto. Is that clear? Do you understand what I'm saying? Now, let me go to my ISA router. I also need to add a route for each and every context. Change to context pipc, then IP route 10.1.1.0, 255.255.255.0, 192.168.1.2. Sorry. This is route inside. Sorry, I'm on ASA only, right? No, I no need to add the route on route ASA. I just need to add the route on ISP router. I'm doing a mistake. IP route 10.1.1.0, 255.255.255.0, 192.168.1.2. Same way, this is going to be 3, where is 10.1.2.0. Same way, this is going to be 4, 3.0. Same time, line VTY 0 to 4, password Cisco. I did all these things. Okay, an ISP router is ready. Now from pipc, I'm trying to do telnet 192.168.1.1. I'm logged in on the service provider router, then telnet 192.168.1.1. I have logged into the service provider router. Same way from admin, I'm doing telnet to 192.168.1.1. Logged in. See, now I go to the service provider, check it out, which are all the people got connected to. Now you can see that you got the telnet request from different IP addresses. See, one is from 10.1.1.10, other one will be from 10.1.2.10, and the third one will be 10.1.3.10. So we have done the slicing of my firewall called as a context, and I have reserved the interfaces, dedicated interfaces for the internal interface, internal network, and a shared interface for the external world. But if you go and check it out, see, sorry, now let's go and say, you will not be able to see 10.1.2.0 or 10.1.3.0, but you are seeing only 10.1.1.0, right? At the same time, what if I restrict, okay, on my pipc, I'm writing an access control list, permit, access list, permit, TCP, any equivalent to 80, only 80 I'm just permitting it, access group 10 in interface inside. You understand what I'm saying? On pipc, I bound an access list which is going to be allowing only HTTP traffic but not telnet or anything else. Now I bound this also. Now I'm going to the pipc, right? Let's clear these connections. Same way, I'm going to the ASA, show con, check it out, one most used. Let me go and do telnet to 192.168.1.1. I should not be able to do it because my access list is allowing only HTTP access from my internal network. Whereas if I go to my Coke, then do telnet, still you will be able to do this one because that policies are entirely different. How do I confirm it? Go to Cisco ASA, right? I'm under pipc, show access list, check it out. See that? I have an access list here which is permitting only change to context Coke. See, the pipc has an access list associated to the internal interface which is permitting only HTTP traffic. Now show access list, I can see that there is no access list bound to the interfaces. Because of that, the security level has its own significance on it. You guys are with me or gone out? Okay, yeah. So yeah, I understand. I'll share the worksheets so that you will be able to repeat it and you will be able to understand many things with respect to this. Any questions as of now?